Okay, the Mesquite Citizen Journal is here today with Councilman Craig Hafen, and we're going to kind of celebrate your 1 year in office and talk about some issues that you've dealt with, some that are coming up. First of all, tell us what you think your biggest accomplishment was, either you personally or as a council, in the first year that you held office as a councilman for the city of Mesquite.
Well, first of all, you say celebrate. I mean, do you think it's a celebration?
Well, yeah, the Mesquite Citizen Journal is celebrating.
Well, that's true. We all kind of started together. So.
Yeah, we did, all on the same day.
You know, I don't know if we could pinpoint one thing. I think that we've all tried to inform the public. We try to listen, get the information out there so they know why we make the decisions we make. You know, we're going to have fundamental differences, but I think we have a good group of individuals that we discuss the issues and make decisions based on what we feel is best. I think the transparency issue is, I think that's an accomplishment that we've made. I think the information's there with the tech reviews.
Well, I have to say tech reviews are entertaining.
Well, that's a little bit of a challenge because of the, we can't really ask some of the questions. Not really necessarily we can ask questions, but to get into some of the, without the deliberation. So it kind of restrains us, but at least the information's there so the public knows where we're going, what's on the agenda. There's no excuses for them to say that the information isn't there.
That's true.
So I think that's one of the major accomplishments. I think we've looked at some contracts and some things that were done in the past. I think we've tried to do what's in the best interest for the citizens of Mesquite going forward. Some of those accomplishments, I'm not going to necessarily mention names, but I think the citizens that stay involved know what I'm talking about. And we continue to just move forward. Hope we can do things that will stabilize the businesses and keep them here and continue to wade through this thing, because I think we still have some challenges as far as the economy.
And we're going to get to that in a minute, but tell us what your biggest disappointment was in the first year. What did you most want to accomplish that you weren't able to?
Well, I think generating more business revenue to the businesses are here. I think that's a frustration for all of us. We'd like to see everybody be successful and bring things to town, but and so that's probably one of the frustrations and disappointments. It's a little tougher than I think than I imagined. And we're in this thing for a few more years. I think staff's been good to control the expenses so that we do have a near balanced budget with what we proposed a month or so ago.
You're as good as segueing into the next question as the mayor was when I did an interview with him. Because one of the things that I want to talk about is some budget issues. You guys were facing a $2 million budget a year ago. With the budget that just started the beginning of this month, July, you turned in a proposed balanced budget. That's a $2 million swing in 1 year. What are your thoughts about that? That's a significant amount, $2 million in 1 year swing.
It is, and I think that the staff deserves a lot of credit. They went back to their departments and and cut where they needed to cut, and I think they've done a great job with that. I think the services are still there.
Are you satisfied with the staffing levels at City Hall?
I think they do a good job. I mean,
are you satisfied with the staffing levels at City Hall?
I'm satisfied with the staffing levels at City Hall. I think we've brought in some great people. We've lost some people. Finance Director Debbie is, she came in right in the thick of things and waded through it, and I think she did a great job with the budget. She's still got some things to learn coming from Utah into Nevada, but she's doing a great job. Mr. Barton, he's been here a short time, but I think he's the kind of person that the people in Mesquite need at this time to carry this program forward. He listens. He's got an open door policy. He's got a lot of insight that I think is going to be beneficial to Mesquite. But I think overall, I mean, there are a few places where maybe there could be a little more assistance, possibly, but I think the staff does a great job. And they
What
understand.
areas would those be?
Finance might need a little help there in that department, as far as, there's a lot that's involved there with Dodie and Debbie. We do need to make sure that we keep the health, safety, and welfare of Mesquite where it needs to be. I think the police and fire departments do a tremendous job. I know that.
Are you satisfied with their staffing levels?
We hear that police departments lost a few, and so they'll have to, replace a few, but their levels are down, but they continue to do a lot of good things in the city and keep us safe, and that might be something we have to look at, but I think overall, I think that the staffing is sufficient.
Okay. One of the groups of employees who did not get a pay raise on July 1 were management personnel. City manager, well, he's new. The director of development services, director of public works, police chief, all of the senior management people, city attorney, did not get a pay raise. They were the only group. Do you foresee any kind of pay adjustments for that group in the next year? The reason I ask is because that's the only question I forgot to ask during the budget hearings.
That's something that needs to be looked at. There's some proposals out there, suggestions that we ought to take a look at that. And what that percentage is going to be, I don't know. They do a great job. It'd be nice to compensate them, but right now they're the levels they were. We'll just have to see. But I think we need to see where we are, maybe, first of the year, and take a look at some things, or some situations that with some people retiring and that we can.
Mike Callahan is leaving.
Right. There's some things that we might do some structuring to where we might can bump some of those individuals a little bit and still maintain the same levels of expenses that we've had and see what happens.
What is the one area of the budget that makes you the most nervous?
Well, the C-tax is a big deal. I mean, as far as
Thank you for that segue.
we have. I mean, it's the unknown. We've been fortunate for the revenues received out of the C-tax. We've decided to get along with the other entities because we had some other big revenues coming in, but in the long term, I think that they see we're willing to work and do something that's consistent for everyone. And but that's the big unknown of where that's going to come in, and that's a tremendous amount of our revenue.
It is. It's about 44% of our revenue. You've been the most vocal about being cautious on that issue and watching that as it goes forward through the legislature in the next session that starts in January. And at the same time, we hear this discussion about reducing business license fees or reducing impact fees or stretching out impact fees, those kinds of things. So, if we're looking at a significant, maybe even not a significant, if we're looking at an adjustment in the C-tax income, and then we're sitting over here wanting to reduce business fees, business license fees, impact fees, those kinds of things, that revenue has to be made up somewhere if we're going to maintain the same level of budget. How do you propose we do that?
That's exactly right. But if we can make it easier, more cost effective for businesses to come, I think that's a plus.
Then how do we do that?
That's the $1 million question. I think that's
Right.
what we're all looking to find out. I think with the proposals that are to privatize economic development, there's some things that we're looking at. I'm not. I don't have the answers. I wish I did. I don't believe that the continuation of higher business license fees, more impact fees, more things to that's the nail in the coffin to make sure we're not going to have business. My philosophy is that if we reduce costs and make it easier for businesses to come and help them in the process, that's what we need to do to attract business and let them know that we're serious about having them here and we want to work with them. Not the horrendous fees and the challenges that they face when they come in to pull permits or do things. We've got to let people that are willing to invest, let them come in and have that opportunity.
Well, we'll kind of give you a pass that you guys didn't do a lot of action on business license. You did a little bit on the impact fees for liquor licenses and things like that. Do you foresee moving that to the top of the to-do list here in the next year?
I think
those kinds of things. I mean, there's a lot of things there.
You're exactly right. One of the things that's on the city council agenda tonight is some people say that we shouldn't do it. Some people say that it's insignificant. Well, it may be, and that is the reduction of the 3% right-of-way fee.
And that's been your pet peeve now, I think, since they instituted it in 2005.
It has, and I think that this is a way to show the businesses that we're serious about trying to do what we can to help them. Is it a simple thing? Well, that's a simple thing, but to some of these businesses, it's going to add up to a little bit of money. And each resident in Mesquite, some of those, on the average power bill, it's a $200 power bill. It's $5-6 a month. That's $50-60 a year. That's things they can go out and spend where they want to spend and generate it here. Do we need to look at where we're going to replace that revenue for the street funds? Yeah, I'm confident that we can do that through the general fund and those resources that are there with some of the reserves and things like that, and the funding we get through RTC. I sit on that board. I've always said we need to maintain what we have and have the quality we have, and I still think we can do that and that's one of the reasons I put that on the agenda.
Okay. So you're advocating moving the business license restructuring and more action on impact fees and things like that to the top of the agenda for the coming year?
Absolutely, and I think we need to address the other utilities and see if we can't minimize the impact to get some of these businesses started and willing to come here. And I think we need to look at businesses that are willing to come in and invest and not just close the door on them. We've done some things to some businesses that are not here and they're elsewhere and they're doing well because we made it difficult, previous electeds, for them to come. And basically, with the attitude we didn't really want them. That attitude's got to change. We can't be afraid of a little environmental issue of some smells or things that, and I'm talking about the shrimp farm. That's I've always talked about that, and I still question the decisions. We've got to allow those individuals to come in and explain the process, and let them come and invest their money and start some business here so we can create some jobs.
Okay, and along with that that same issue. One of the other issues that's going on right now is the Virgin River Habitat Conservation Recovery Plan. We've done some stories about that. I've been central to that issue.
One or two stories, yeah.
One or two stories. What do you have in mind for that issue as far as reducing the multiple fees that only Mesquite pays in Clark County? We pay 2 fees, potentially 3 with the water district coming in. So where are we going to go from here on that issue?
My belief is we need to engage the county, go back to the original intent of the agreements. I'm a firm belief that they're willing to work with us if we push the issue and say, look folks, we'd like to proceed forward, have you cover this, one plan, one fee, we work with the county and we go forward. And I think that process has been started with some of the things that have been decided in the past couple weeks with consultants, with, it gets back to, is it fair for Mesquite to pay 3 fees potentially?
Right.
2.5 times what other people are paying, other counties or governmental entities. I don't see the fairness in that.
Okay.
When we're not impacting the river.
Okay. What other business-related issues do you have in mind that you'd like to address in the next 6 months, next year?
Well, going back to the the privatization of economic development. I mean, it's still an unknown. there's still some questions to be answered, some things to look at, but I think at some point we have to be together. The chamber, the privatization through the city, or however we end up doing that, and the local business community, we have to be on board to promote Mesquite. But ultimately,
Well, there's been some people who have advocated having a master plan, if you will, that kind of brings all of these groups together, or forms some kind of more formal coordination effort with all of these different groups, the Chamber, the Mesquite Development Corporation, the new private economic development, so on and so forth. Are you advocating some kind of umbrella structure or plan or whatever?
we have to be together.
Okay.
However that's created, I'm not sure. But we have to work together. The thing that we have to understand, though, is if you go back to the challenges that we still have all the government, the programs that the city has always had. Those things still exist. They're here. Mm-hmm. It comes back to the private side of the economy, and that's what we have to focus on. We have to be able to, and we can't convince people. I mean, times are tough. They've got to be willing to come in and invest. Are we going to be able to do that? Our record so far in economic development isn't really good based on the way we've handled it through the city.
Right.
That's why I'm listening to the proposals. Some people are a little concerned of the amount of money, but if we're going to make a commitment, we've got to give it a little time. We've got to have the process go forward. These things don't happen overnight. I mean,
Right.
It's just like development. There's nothing that's come into the city that's and I don't want to, of magnitude as far as a big development or anything like that.
Right.
Even if those things came in today, we're still, a year and a half, 2 years before we see some of the fruits of that initial submittals.
Mm-hmm.
There's things that people are looking at, but with the way things are with the economy, they're just not willing to commit right now. And it gets back to your question with business license fees, the structures. We continue to lose business.
That's true.
And it hurts to see people, because there's no business. We don't have the bodies here. We don't have, and they have to leave, and it's unfortunate. And that is one of my big frustrations. How do we continue to keep the demand here and keep the revenue and the circle of that revenue to keep it here in Mesquite?
Okay, well then let's segue on into the next controversial subject, the proposed indoor sports/events complex. It's been almost 8 months since council approved sending out an RFP. We haven't seen one yet.
I was one of the two that didn't vote for that. I stand
Didn't
by
vote, just for clarification, you did not vote to send an RFP out
to
for
go forward.
design?
To go forward.
Okay.
I was more looking at the process of a private venture to see if there was any interest, because in my fundamental belief, that is the only way that this thing's going to work. And I've been wrong before, and I hope I'm wrong on this if it goes forward. Not necessarily believe I am, but that's my hope. I believe that if that thing's going to be successful, it needs to be a private enterprise. I need somebody that knows what they're doing, somebody that can bring people in and has the resources to make that happen. I'm just not convinced that that's the right thing for Mesquite right now, as far as is it going to generate the kind of businesses. St. George is in the process of doing a big something similar on a bigger magnitude, and
Right.
we're going to be competing against that. We compete right now with that situation with cooler weather, higher elevation facilities that are established. We have the heat. 116 out there today. There's
Yeah.
things that we have to deal with reality, and we have to realize that can we truly compete and bring those kind of venues and that in. it's proven we can with the facilities we have. Maybe we need to look at and focus on those during the better weather times and see if we can bring more of those things in. But it still gets back to what I said earlier. The city and the government can do as much as they can. Those things are still intact. We still have all those facilities, but look where we are. It has to be the private sector, and that's why I'm a little concerned with the tent issue, is that, you know, we could potentially spend a lot of money and not see the benefit that we all hope we're going to receive.
Well, because one of the proposals early on with the city staff, at least, was that the remaining $2.5 million we have left in the redevelopment agency fund, the RDA fund, would all be used towards that.
I understand.
And that doesn't leave much for anything else.
So and that's one of the issues is, so we commit all the funds, put all our eggs in one basket. 2 months down the road, after we've committed them to go to this sports and events center, we have a viable person come in with a great idea that really wants to invest, and he's put a lot of his money in, and he's asking if we can kick in just a little bit. We don't have any money to help him. And it's not only that, there's been some things that were done that didn't pan out that took a substantial amount of those funds that potentially we may not recover.
I believe that would be the Solstice RDA $2.5 million loan.
Correct.
Okay. Which, by the way, I keep asking about, and we don't hear anything back, so.
You hear what we hear.
Okay, we'll go with that one. I'll give you that one. So, what would you do with that $2.5 million if we weren't spending it on the proposed indoor sports/events complex? I have some more questions about that, by the way, but
there's some things on the boulevard. I mean, whether you agree or disagree, Mesquite Boulevard is still the corridor for Mesquite when people come into town. I think there's some things that we need to be more aggressive in talking to some of those business owners and maybe kind of revitalizing. It's not going to take a lot of money, but it's some simple little things that can help address some of the issues with some of those, you know, they're older businesses and help just the aesthetics of that. I think that's something we ought to look at.
some people have said that the city should be more aggressive with those business owners in cleaning up the property, repainting it, redecorating it, if you will. What are your thoughts about the city's stance or the city's action towards those business owners along the Mesquite Boulevard and Sandhill Boulevard?
Well, I'm going to tell you, for one example, I know this is fact, that there was a group that wanted to come in and open up Harley's as a garage, Harley's Garage.
Uh-huh.
And Harley's Garage was there for a number of years as a garage. For some reason, who knows why, that wasn't allowed. I think that would have been a positive thing for the downtown area to let them come in, clean that up, show some activity, and let that business go forward. We've got to kind of look at those kind of issues instead of just, no, we can't have that, we can't do that. Let's help them overcome whatever issue, whether it's environmental or whatever. Let's see if we can't help them work through that and establish some of those things and get that cleaned up as far as and getting a business in there. But,
which do you think is better to use with, not on, I don't think that, use with those businesses, the carrot or a stick?
well, my grandpa used to tell me that you catch more bees with honey than you do with the other thing. and I believe, you know what, we still have to remember that that's their property. They own it. You go in there with a stick and you know what, they might have a bigger stick. I think there's ways to do things and there's ways not to do things, and I think most of these people are willing to sit down and address those issues with us, and maybe we need to just be a little more diligent and explain some of the purposes, and I think that, and I've had some conversations with them, with some of them, and I think they're positive, but those things take time as well, but you know, I think anytime you try to go tell somebody that it's my way or the highway, it doesn't work.
Do you think that we should be spending more money, RDA funds, either the remaining bond money, which is $2.5 million, or the incremental tax RDA money, do you think we should be spending more on those properties through the RDA? You know, because we had the 14 million or $15 million bond, we had $12.9 million left out of that. And that was supposed to be for Mesquite and Sand Hill Boulevard to clean those areas up. And not one dime has been spent on that, hardly. There's been a few $10,000 here, $18,000 here, but certainly not to the magnitude that that bond was originally issued for.
Right. But I think you're right. I think we could spend more money there. I don't think it's going to take a lot of money to do some of the things that people would like to see done on beautifying some of those places. And we just need to, like I say, be more aggressive and talk to those people and say, hey, here's some things through the RDA that we can do if you're willing to allow this to go forward. And we're not talking a lot of money. If you look at what you mentioned with some of the funds that we've spent, where we spent them, we spent a lot of RDA funds, and some of it we've got zero return, and we spent a lot of money on some things that I don't think the process was done right.
Okay. Do you want to name any of those?
Well, I'll give you an example, okay? You gave one earlier, 2.5. You want to know what's going on. We want to know what's going on.
With the solstice
one. Are we going to get that money back? The library property, I don't see what benefit it is when you have a library to move it across the street onto a boulevard parcel. What difference that's going to make when you're talking? You already have an existing facility there. I think we should have questioned some of the pricing on that.
Mm-hmm.
Just some of the things, and I'm not trying to second guess decisions that were made, but a lot of the investments that were made out of the RDA funds, there's not the return on the investment that I think that was the intent of true RDA, as opposed to some revitalization of downtown parcels and allowing businesses to go in some of those existing older businesses and revitalize and generate activity and revenue downtown.
Okay. Let's talk about Gold Butte National Conservation Area status. You kind of pushed that issue to appear on the council agenda.
I did.
Did not exactly go the way you personally or professionally or politically wanted it to.
That's
Pick
life.
one of those peas.
That's life. Yeah, it is.
Pick one of those peas. So what are your thoughts about that issue going forward from here? Just recently, there was some legislation introduced in Congress that designated a lot of land, a few 100,000 acres of land down in Vegas. Number one was Tule Springs,
Right.
Dinosaur Monument or National Monument, whatever. Talk about Gold Butte and what that issue means to you and what you would like to see happen.
I'm a believer that more local control is always better. I mean, there's a lot of groups that go out there and do a lot of good. The challenge that I have with what's proposed is just as you mentioned, they continue to bring more land to come under this umbrella of the NCA or wilderness or whatever you want to tag it as. That's one concern, is that we establish an NCA and it, pretty soon we're going to have everything out there is going to be under that guise, whether it's NCA, wilderness, whatever. The other challenge is I would like to see that the Bunkerville Mountains, it doesn't start till it truly ought to start where Gold Butte really is, out at Whitney Pockets, and go that way. When we got elected, the mayor and I sat down with it, and I let a certain individual pick the people to try to come to some kind of consensus, and we couldn't get anywhere. We couldn't get anywhere because, first of all, the amount of wilderness that is being proposed by the BLM is significantly less than certain other groups want. That's a number one concern, because
And that would be the environmental groups.
right.
Okay.
So, My thing is back to some local control. I think that those that are closer to it, Bunkerville, us, the other valley, I think we ought to have a little more say. The off-roaders, the tribe, there's groups that ought to have a little say in that. We're not always going to agree, but at least if we can preserve some of the things, and I'm about conservation, preservation, but I'm about utilization too. Last thing I want to see is that thing shut down. I mean, you can go out there now and there's roads that are shut down.
Mm-hmm.
And the real reason that I push that is because I just don't want somebody from back in Washington to come and tell us what's going to happen. I'd like us to be able to say, here's what we'd like to see happen. But we can never get anybody on the same page. And yeah, you're right. It didn't turn out the way I'd like it to. But
Are you willing to bring it back?
I can't. I lost.
Okay.
That's part of the game. I
Okay.
lost. I was on the losing side of that deal. So it would have to be,
Knowing you, that had to hurt.
nobody likes to lose.
Okay, there is a group in town who have some pretty significant ideas about making this more of an ATV, off-roader, four-wheeler, whatever your moniker you want to use, mecca. And that would significantly generate more economic activity, not development, activity in Mesquite and the area than perhaps designating it a wilderness, and basically your clientele is going to be hikers. So what do you think? You grew up in this area. That's your backyard. What do you think about that, juxtapositioning those two interests in terms of economic activity?
Well, one of the things if they're going to go forward with the NCA or whatever that I talked about is if we're truly looking for that NCA to really bring in economic positive indication of more tourism and more generation of revenue to Mesquite and those type of things, then we need to talk about putting a boat ramp out here so we can go down on this side.
I did the mayor last Friday.
Okay.
I'm just kidding. He brought up the same idea.
So I guess the question I have is, are we truly concerned about having an economic positive to Mesquite, or are we just want to get a designation? Because right now the ACEC will handle a lot of the things that's going on. But back to the four-wheelers and the trails, that's becoming a big recreational retired. There's a lot of individuals that want to go travel and see things that really they can only get there on a four-wheeler ATV. There's loops that can tie in through the Strip in Arizona and back into Utah. But if we continue on the path of wilderness, those things won't happen, and that'll have a detrimental impact on. We have a local business here that sells quite a few of those.
Mm-hmm.
They do a lot of off-roading and sponsor groups and trips and things like that. They go out through the country, and yeah, I've been out there. I've chased cows. I've hunted out there. I do a lot of things. Once again, I want to conserve it. I want to preserve it, but I want to use it. Conservation, preservation, utilization. I think that we can have those things, but the more wilderness and some of those issues that are being pushed to benefit, bigger cities and that with their mitigation purposes and those kind of things, we're going to be the one that gets the short end of the stick.
Well, there is an individual in town, Doug Reith, who presented an idea a couple weeks ago to me to create ATV trails through the city where an individual could potentially get on the ATV at his house and make a complete trek through all of the Gold Butte area up into the Arizona Strip. A couple years ago, the city kind of shut down a whole lot of streets against ATVs, so it's almost as though they were acting against that idea.
Well, and there are some, with Riverside Road, I think there's some state statutes that prohibit some of that. I agree. I think we need to allow where we can. I mean, you know, we don't want them going down Mesquite Boulevard, head on to traffic, those kind of things. I mean, we have to be a little bit sensible, but that is an issue that we need to address where we can. And I think the PD's been pretty reasonable about allowing people to travel and cross streets that they need to get to their destinations, to go out and visit some of those places. I think they've been pretty lenient on that. Still trying to keep the safety issues in there, but that is something I think we could address better to allow those kind of things to happen. Be good for business.
Probably the last question here, I think. Almost the last question. You sit on the RTC board. You've just had a great time the last year with that assignment. They're reworking the contract for the bus service down in Vegas. I'm not so much interested in the bus service in Vegas as much as I'm interested in how that contract may affect Mesquite. You know, we get a significant amount of dollars from RTC for our roads, our construction, our maintenance, new trails. So talk a little bit about the RTC and, you know, some potential problems there or some potential gain. What kind of projects do we have on the horizon that RTC may be planning for us?
Well, I do sit on RTC. I sit on Regional Flood. Great organizations. When I got involved with RTC, it was in the middle of the 4-4 vote that was pretty contentious. We have worked through that. I think the proposals actually go out today. They were split. The concern that I had was just as you mentioned, is what effect is going to have on the ridership or the transportation issues out here in Mesquite with transporting people.
Right.
And it was going to be critical. That's when, you know, we got together and took a bus down there, and Mesquite was heard. My colleagues realized that, you know, there's concern, and I appreciate the citizens that went, took the time to go down. It was beneficial because they were heard, and I think it helped to go forward with the way this contract went forward now. Until we see what the pricing comes back with, and then how the contracts go, I would hope that there would be no more detrimental loss in revenue and routes out here. My colleagues are committed to make sure that we're taken care of.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm happy about the way those things turned out. I mean, it was it wasn't a pleasant process with the way it went, but I think that we had a unanimous vote as it went forward this time, and I would hope that everybody will uphold that and not try to do something that, when we get to the end of finalizing the process and going forward. Revenues are up, so hopefully if we can keep that trend, I don't see that the Mesquite's going to be impacted with the Silver Rider and those things that provide the transportation. And
well, you mentioned the Regional Flood Commission that you also are a member of. I just got a picture yesterday submitted to me. I don't think we have to worry about too much flooding this summer on the river, but what are, you know, we get these 100-year floods every 5 years. What kind of projects are going on now with the regional flood? What's in the works? What's in the future for some flood mitigation along the Virgin River, specifically the east side?
Well, and just for information, through the regional flood and RTC, Mesquite we've been fortunate to receive a lot of financing to line washes, roads from RTC, those kind of things. They've taken care of us. On the 10-year plan, it is on the 10-year plan to reinforce whether it's concrete or stone, like up in Washington County, the river, to help to mitigate those flooding issues and widen the river and channel it the way it needs to be done. That is on the 10-year plan that we've approved going forward. You know, it gets back to money, but it is on the horizon. They're aware of those issues and know that it's a concern. Mm-hmm. With the levee that was built with the last flood, you know, we've talked to BLM to try to do some agreements and things maybe where we get control of that. Those things are still being worked out where that will stay in place until the permanent fix can really come. But from my perspective, if that stays in place, I think we can pretty well eliminate the flooding that'll take place if we have another one of those 100-year floods in the next 5 years, which could happen.
Yeah, very well could. So what are your goals for the next year? Did I already ask you that?
I don't know.
I can't remember.
But as far as goals, of course, always the financial situation is a concern. We want to make sure that we continue to not deficit spend. We want to continue to maintain what we have in the city. We have, this is a great place. We have great people. I also would like to thank the businesses and the citizens that step up and volunteer. There's a tremendous amount of that goes on. For example, the 4th of July activities that just took place. I mean, you got to hand it to the Lee family and the Eureka and what they've done, and just great people. And it's a great activity. It brings a lot of community support and spirit for the whole day of activities. And we have those kind of people that step up all the time, and they need to be recognized. We need to continue that. And one of the focuses, as has been mentioned, is the process of how do we get business to Mesquite? How do we make it easier for them to come in? How do we mitigate some of the impacts financially that we can entice them to come here and let them know that we want them to be here, so that we can continue to have the growth that's consistent and steady.
Okay. All right. Well, Councilman Hafen, I appreciate your time. Great conversation, and we'll see you in a little while at the City Council meeting.
And we appreciate the information you put out there for the citizens of Mesquite. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.